life should be lived in the moment brings more harm than good. A quick disclaimer before we start the debate. The speech time will be 7 minutes and 20 seconds, and after that I will not take any more notes. The reply will be 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and the same goes. If it's above the time limit, I will not take any notes. Make sure you state your POI preference so the debate can go smoothly. And there's also a timekeeper, so you guys can look at her to remember the time. So without further ado, let's start the debate. I welcome the first speaker from the government side here.
Sorry, this is not turned on.
Yes. Alright, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So this modern day that we live in, we have faced a lot of problems individually, right? I think all of us have felt this fear, this sense of overwhelmed by the things that we have to face in our daily lives. And due to this feeling of being overwhelmed, a lot of us subscribe to this narrative of life should be lived in the moment. Now, this is, in our opinion, a sort of escapism, right? Because what does it mean to live in a moment? It means focusing on the present, but solely focusing on the present will lead to some problems, of which I will define later. Now, this sort of thinking this encouraging of the narrative, this pushing of the narrative, and the adherence to life should be lived in the moment is something that is bad, right? The government believes. Now, we believe that thinking about the future and the past also needs to be done, which is exactly opposite of the idea to live in the very moment. Now, this idea pushes the narrative that the past and the future should not even matter. Now, there are some problems that may arise from this narrative itself. And first of all, the idea that we should live life in the current moment will lead us to repeat our past mistakes. Now, we believe that this, again, is a sort of escapism because there are a lot of fear and worry that can come from thinking about our past, reflecting about our past, and reflecting upon the future. And because of that, by living in the moment, we will sort of ignore the past mistakes that we have done. And because we are ignoring those past mistakes, then we will not improve ourselves. We will keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Second of all, adherence to this notion will give a sort of imbalance to decision making, right? Because all we do is consider the factors that are affecting us right now in the moment. We are not thinking about what has happened or the sort of precedents that was set from our actions in the past. We are not thinking about what the consequences in the long run, in the long term could be. Now, this can be obviously very, very bad for the individual because they will make decisions that are not sustainable, that will hinder them in the future. In the worst case, it will not only affect them, but it will also affect other people. Now, it's something that we have to think, that when you make decisions, it doesn't only affect you, it affects people around you. And this sort of thinking that life should be lived in the moment is something that we believe is mainly considering your own present. You are making decisions that will make you happy, that will create a reality that you want to live in right now. But again, it could affect you badly in the far future, and it could affect other people badly, both in the present and in the far future. And third, and my final argument is that believing in this notion or the pushing of this narrative will create a sort of lack of direction in people's life because their life becomes unfocused without a clear either goal in mind or at least a clear timeline of what they want to do in the future. And this, at the very worst case of it, can destabilize someone's life fundamentally, especially when it comes to making decisions regarding the things that affect their lives fundamentally, like their careers and such. Now, let me paint you a narrative, right? So this is something that has happened to all of us, right? This feeling of worry, this feeling of overwhelming, which pushes us to believe and adhere to this notion, right? And we again would like to reiterate that that's escapism, because feeling worried and feeling overwhelmed is actually very normal. And that worry becomes the precursor. It pushes us to become better people in the future, to change our environment, and to make a better life for ourselves, for the past, for the far future, right? And this is very true in a lot of things in human history. Now, if we only focus on the present, then we'll keep making short-term decisions that again will not benefit us in the future, decisions that are unsustainable. Now, let me give you some concrete examples. First of all, picture yourself at work. You feel boredom, ennui, you feel demotivated, and you don't feel like you're achieving anything. So what do? Let's change career paths, right? Let's do something else on a whim, because you think that you will create, again, a reality that you want to live in right now. This will be better for now. But if you don't really think about what could happen, what that decision could entail in the future, then you are in for a very tumultuous time in your life, right? And second of all, for example, in your social life, you are fighting with your friends. There are some bickering, there are some arguments, and because you feel like, oh, this person is not really benefiting me in this very moment. If anything, they are hindering myself in this very moment. Let's cut them off, right? But that is not a wise thing to do, because what you need to do is you need to consider the past that you had with them and the possible what your actions may entail for them, for your relationship in the future, and what sort of precedent you are trying to set with how you treat your friends at the very moment, right? What sort of precedents you want to set with what kind of person you are in your social life. Now, a third example that we believe we might all be able to, most of us might be able to relate to, is if we, for example, today, that we are having a debate. Beforehand, we feel calm, right? We just live in a moment. No, not thinking about what might happen during the debate. But if anything, that hinders us from our preparation. We prepare less. But it is something, that debate in and of itself is something that will inevitably happen anyway. So because you're too busy living in the moment, you're not thinking about the future, the inevitable happens and you are less prepared for it. Now, we would move on to our conclusion, right? In life, it's best to be more balanced. And this idea to live in the moment, if it is pushed, it will only hinder us from self-improvement. It will hinder our life because this, 7:20 seconds, right? It will, because it encourages this state of mind of escapism, it deters personal development, and it encourages you to be impulsive and at times selfish as well. That's it from the government. Thank you.
Thank you for that good speech from the Prime Minister. And to open the case from the oppositions, I welcome the first speaker of oppositions, here.
Thank you.
Hello? speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, under the opposition side of the House, we believe that people actually should care more about what currently ahead in their path of life. We believe that the government side of the House has very much thinking very pessimistic about thinking about right now, rather than they say that it is very much harmful to think about what lies currently ahead in your life. That they are thinking that it is thinking in that kind of way is very much a form of escapism, and thinking in that way is very much a form of killing yourself for the future. That's basically what entails, because they say that it will eventually going to harm you more. They basically in their argumentation say that feeling the sense of right now means that you will also feel the sense of overwhelm and fear, in which I will going to explain to you why it actually going to happen under their side of the house also. And secondly, they also think that focusing on present will impact you in terms of like harming you in your personal life, harming you in your career, and harming you for the future, in which I will also tell you why in my argumentation on how those things wouldn't happen under our side of the house. Going on into my argumentation, basically, we believe that living in the now is basically proving, we will prove to you why living in the now will bring you more benefit and impact you in a good way, rather than being very pessimistic about it. I have basically two argumentation in today's debate. Firstly, why living in the now will make you as a better person. Ladies and gentlemen, we characterize people who think about the future and the past as people who are very cautious, very conservative, and very perfectionist. They are scared to live because of the fear of failure. They tend to have a set of plans, and those things are very bad. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because the shape of the present is ever changing. If you cannot be flexible, you will crumble under our status quo. For example, the shape of the idea in the 90s, the shape of the idea of the future of 2023 is very different than the things that is actually happening right now. So those things, if you cannot be flexible, if you are very conservative, if you are very cautious, and you're very much fear of failure, you're going to think about it so much. Then compare it right for the people who think about right now. We under our side of the house think that people who thinks in this kind of way is very flexible. They will have much more quick thinking, and they will be much more relaxed in their life. They tend to have multiple sets of plans, and they are very much open-minded. Therefore, this type of people is very opportunistic. And in that terms, that no, thank you. In that terms, that you will have much more ambition in your life. You will have much more type of things in which that you will be flexible in your career and in your social life. For example, people that do things about the future, they will. For example, if you want to go to Japan, you're going to learn about the Japanese language. If you are the type of people who thinks about the future, you will have a set of plan in which that okay, I'm going to go to Japan and I'm going to work there. Okay, and people who thinks about the now, okay, I'm going to learn Japanese because I love Japanese right now. But you will have that set of skill. You will still have that set of skills that will benefit your career in the future also. So thinking about the now actually can impact your future in a good way, rather than being very pessimistic like the government side of the house. And secondly, not living in the moment brings in harms in your life in terms of mental health, in which that they bring also under their points that people who think about the now, they say will actually going to have a form of escapism, which is going to very much harm you in your mental state and going to harm you in your career. We think under opposition side of the house that not living in the moment brings you more harm in your life, because I've already explained to you how it will bring fears in your life, because you're going to think too much about the future. You're going to think too much about, okay, how are my future going to go? How are my future careers going to be impacted? How if in the future I'm going to go to A, and in that future, you're not going to go to that A. So you're going to very much be impacted in your mental health in the long run, because you are going to fail and you have the expectation, and that expectation didn't match because you think too much and you expect too much in your future. Secondly, you will have more anxiety, ladies and gentlemen. That anxiety simply comes because you will feel that, okay, I'm not going to live in my moment right now. My moment is going to be in my future. So in my future, or in my past, I already have that moment. So I will not going to go to this moment right now. But that is very much, I think, a very, very harmful thing to think like that. And it will bring you far more stress, and you will not end up enjoying life. It will just become a mental burden, and that mental burden will bring up a lot of harms in your life. You could very much feel depressed because of it. You could very much feel that your life has no meaning, because you cannot enjoy your life in a sense that, okay, in my younger days, in the future, in my younger days, I cannot enjoy my moment right now. I don't have that moment. And those type of things happens under our status quo right now. There is a lot of people in our status quo right now who doesn't have that moment in their life, because simply they think too much and they have that anxiety too much in their future, thinking about their future, thinking about their past mistake, so they actually don't enjoy the life right now. It will also not only impact you, it could also impact other people. For example, it will impact your family right now. You don't have a moment in your family. You don't have that moment with your friends because you think too much about your career. You will not have social life because you wouldn't have that enjoyable moment, that enjoyable present that you will have if you're not thinking about right now. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we think that not thinking about right now and thinking too much about your past mistake, thinking too much about your future will actually harm you more in the long run. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that, for the speech, LO. And to further extend the case from government, I welcome the DPM. Give you.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, the government team have been mischaracterized by the opposition team by them saying that we only care about the future and the past only. Right, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that I'm going to disprove from their argument is that our government team thinks that the thing that matters the most is a balance between the future, the past, and the present. The future itself, thinking about the future prevents you from getting into trouble. Thinking about the present calms you down, and thinking about the past avoids you from further mistakes. The government team has been mischaracterized by the opposition team, but by them saying that we don't care about any of those. But the thing, we don't care about the benefits of living in the present. But the thing is, what we are avoiding is their notion of that living forever in the present. Living forever in the current notion of life is the only thing that matters in your life, and the only thing that will drive you in a good and happy life. However, ladies and gentlemen, I would rebut otherwise. So I'm gonna go to my second rebuttal. That is that about the mental health argument that the opposition team has brought up into the table. So the mental health notion brought up by the first speaker of the opposition, it says that if we care only about the past and the future of our life, which we did not argue by, we argue that all of them are equal and all of them are equally important, but solely going on the present, solely going with what we have currently, which my first speaker has brought up, by the way, is what is actually the problem. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker argued that by living solely on the present is going to damage your. It's only going to damage your social life. It's only going to damage your family life. It's solely going to damage your life in general and your general habits. But the thing is, thinking about the future, thinking about the past, do not repeat the same mistake again, and do not make any new mistake. Is what that is going to make you happy and what's going to make you mentally stable in general. Because what makes you feel mentally painful is trouble, is mistakes, is the thing that you will face in the future, right? But by living in the present only, which they argue is going to be good for you, is not going to propel you forward. So I'm gonna go with my third rebuttal that the characterization of the first speaker brought, that somebody living in the current moment is cautious, has a fear of failures, has plans for everything, and they will over prepare. But the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, it works. It's what makes people survive in this current changing and abnormal landscape that we live in right now. The first speaker and I agree on one thing, that is living right now in the current age is so difficult. Everything is ever changing and you never know what happened. But do you know what can help that? Plans. The characterization that the first speaker has brought up in his speech is what actually supports our notion that thinking about the future and preventing our past mistakes is what gonna make you survive. The thing is, all of the plans all the plans and the characteristics that the first speaker brought up to this notion is because it works. It's what makes you survive. So I'm gonna go with my first argument that all of this worry, all this anxiety that is brought up by thinking about the future and thinking about the past is basically a normal thing. It's what we humans have evolutionarily built in our system. So why do we think about the future? Think about why do you think about the future? Why do we think about the past? When we worry about the future, when we worry about the past, is to avoid some problems. Let's say I'm gonna bring my own experience. A few minutes ago, I was building exactly 37 minutes ago, I was building a case for myself. I was anxious, I was worrying, I was not thinking straight. But the thing is, right? If I continue to live in my present, if I continue to be calm and there is no anxiety and there's nothing to push me. Sure, a lot of anxiety can be bad, but a little anxiety can push you forward. But I'm not supporting that. I'm not supporting a mental illness and the normalcy of the existence of anxiety. But the thing is, people have it. It's almost inevitable that you're gonna have it. But it propels you forward. It propels you to not be in your current situation and to push you forward and to not be in the position of it. Because of my anxiety, because of my fear, because of everything that I've experienced, I want to move forward. I make a case for myself. I built this argument and now I'm standing here in the speech. Because why? Why am I standing here in the speech? Because it's inevitable. Your problem, the future, and things that that's gonna come to you, it's going to be there whether you want it or not. And by thinking in the present, for every single thing in your life, it's going to prevent you from moving forward. It's going to make you stagnant. Which is going to move forward to my second argument. That's the balance argument, because what we at the government teams argue is that living solely on your present, living only in your present is nothing to be supportive for, because to have a good life, to have a good relationship with people around you, is to have a balance, right? Perhaps if I think too much in the present, if I think too much about what's going to happen now in a few seconds, in the seconds towards my stuff, I wouldn't be able to plan plans going out with my friends. I will have plans going out and talking to my mom, even though she's sick. I don't have anything to do. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm me and my government team is trying to propose is that living solely in the present is something that we are proud to oppose, and we're proud to propose that living in the present is overrated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the speech, DPM, and to extend the case from oppositions, I welcome the DLO. Here.
I would like to start my speech in three. Oh wait, personal PR preference and brief. Thanks. I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to rebut what the second speaker of the government team has said. Firstly, the second speaker has said about balance. How can you be balanced? Balance is a very hard thing to achieve by us as a human. People tend to think more about one or the other. You can tend to think more about the future, or you can tend to think about the past. That is what currently happened in this country. Also, secondly, we would like to clarify that we as the opposition team are not discrediting the idea of living in the future. But we prefer, but we're thinking in it now, it makes it more prepared, more flexible in, as we said, changing future and current meta. Thirdly, I would like to question about the second speaker. When you said work, you mean work? Because again, it's what we said as the first speaker. The future changes. Yes, your plan will work, but then again, if you're having a long-term plan, it may work now, but it wouldn't work. It has the potential to not work in where you want it to be in the future. Plans work, yes, but without flexibility, as we said, by living in the now, your plans would most likely fail. Sorry. The probability of your plans failing would tend to increase. Also, back again to our stance. In the ever-changing future, but then, by thinking about the now, by having the ability to flex, by being able to be flexible, you tend to have more opportunities and a better future in your life. Next, I would like to bring the arguments from our opposition team. Firstly, continuing from this first speaker, I would like to bring the benefits by having a living in the now kind of thinking. Let's say you as a Gen Z or a millennial. Let's frame it at that. You as a Gen Z tend to have thinking about the future, but not realistic future or with unrealistic pacing. Millennials also have the same business. This kind of thinking would tend to lead to stress and burden in your life. By doing so, by thinking too much about the future, Gen Z tends to overthink, and millennials also tend to overthink about your life. And this overthinking, that again, will decrease your mental state and furthermore leads you to more harm. In our side of the house, by thinking more about it now, you need to be more flexible, and it benefits you in the long run as well. With having the flexibility of living in the now and living in a more open state of mind, you tend to have more opportunities in the future and not one set of future. You are able, like for example, one of the examples that I would like to bring is being able to switch jobs when needed. Let's say you're working in a company. You think that working in a company A needs set skills, like the first speaker have said. You have set skills that you need to go. In company A, you need set skills 8, 1, 2, and 3. You get the skills of 1, 2, and 3, and you work at company A. But after you work at company A, you fail. You get fired, or company A, let's say, goes bankrupt or got destroyed. By having those 3 skills, you only think that those 3 skills are only applicable to company A. This, when you get fired, you have no idea where else you have to go, and you cannot apply to other jobs because those skills are not applicable to other jobs. But like the first speaker has said, by thinking about it now, you tend to use your skills in a more versatile state. In the working environment right now, in our current meta, the versatile mode is more preferable than a fixed mode for using your skills. Secondly, I would like to bring the impacts. In a company, as having having flexible employees in your company would flourish better in our current state. How so? Back again to what I have said, in our ever-changing future, flexibility is needed, or else you tend to break. You tend to break and not be prepared for what it is to come. Lastly, as our argument, I would like to bring that, different to what the government has said, thinking about the now makes you able to be strengthen your bond with your family. Yes, the government have said that there are egotistical decision making in thinking about the now, and these egotistical decision making tends to have effects, whether it can be good or it can be bad. But the good effects, for example, that I would like to bring is joining, let's say, join a Christmas dinner or going back home for Eid. Living in those kind of decisions are decisions that tend to more live in the now, live in the moment, and those are beneficial. You can strengthen your bond with the family, you can strengthen and meet other people, and you can make relations. Those relations can furthermore be used in the future or later. If you think about the future, you will be more likely to miss out on these moments. And you would, let's say, by example for this, what I mean by this is like, in the time of Christmas, you didn't come home for dinner, or you didn't come home to go to meet your family at Eid. You are too busy of thinking about the future. And then you think, I'm thinking about the future, and I'm making about my future right now. It's okay if I miss this dinner. That's something that should be living in the now, and you didn't want to take that decision. And you think, there's probably going to be next year, and then there's probably going to be the next year, and then the next year comes, but unfortunately, your parents already died. And that means at that moment, your decision to think about the future and not thinking about the now, you miss out on your family. You miss out on your parents, you miss out on the people who you could have met them, but you didn't, because they were too busy thinking about the future. As the first speaker already said about this is an example of what the continuation of the impacts to the families. In conclusion, us as a government opposition team would like to say that not thinking about the now will most likely create you making mistakes in the future. That is all for my speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the good speech from the DLO. And to close the substance case from the government, I welcome the government rep. Here.
Testify article. So my PY preference is just listening on candidates and PY. Thank you very much. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I would like to do is to rebut the statement that how is being balanced, not solely focusing on the future, equal to being inflexible. If anything, planning more will give us more options that are thought through, and it will make us feel more in control as well. If we live in a moment, we'll make one quick impulsive decision. It might work then, it might not even work immediately, but the point is, it is actually safer and more beneficial for us to actually think through about the past, the present, and also the future, about a planning idea that makes us enable to understand better about the implications and consequences of what actions that we'll be bringing. And it's all about a life that is filled with balance. You have previously mentioned that how can we achieve balance if it is chaos, but how can we achieve balance if you're only living in the present? Balance is achieved because we simply need to understand what causes an event to happen and how we can reach a certain event with a preparation and plan in mind. And with those balance in mind, we need to understand that we cannot achieve said balance by just thinking deliberately on the present. It's going to be something that makes us hindered, in the sense that with how those ways of thinking of us considering the past and the future, in this specific context, we're not going to be able to understand what things may happen, and it may actually lead to more imbalance. It may actually lead to a sense of withdrawal from actually understanding what's happening in life, and it's going to be difficult. Not only that, we also need to think about the future, the past as well, because it gives us more perspectives, alternatives, ideas, or positions. We all know that the present is ever changing, and it always has a different thing in mind. It's not going to be the same thing on and on and on again. But that's why we have plans, and we have stories or maybe examples from our own past that we can bring up into the future that will also help us with the ever-changing landscape of how the present currently is. It helps us understand more about our psyche as well. The second speaker has also mentioned that it is natural, a thing that is constantly happening, the fact that we feel certain things like anxieties and worries, and we need to actually understand, and those emotions cannot overwhelm us, because the fact is that we need to be able to understand that they are going to come up in the end, and there is nothing we can do about that. That is the inevitable fact of reality. Like the debate example my first speaker also mentioned, the fact that it is going to happen. My first and second speaker also mentioned the fact that they are planning for the debate. And if we were to live in the moment, and we were to live carefully, we were to live happily and carefree, then we will be careful of what happens next, and we might actually deliberately forget what is our responsibilities, what are we about to face in the future, and that may actually lead to more consequences than we have, which is why it is a debilitating mindset, a narrative that actually pursues a very negative effect on society as a whole. Not only that, I would like to also rebut other statements from the opposition team as well. The fact that you mentioned that living right now makes you a better person immediately, but certain cases living right now does not instantaneously make you feel like you are an immediately better person, because you have certain things that my first and second speaker have mentioned regarding the consequences of our actions. We may do certain things that are happy, or that brings joy to us in the very first moment, and the very immediate moment that it happens, so that the happiness runs over us, and then it will immediately dissipate from us, and then it leaves us with the consequences of what we just did. Like, for example, my first speaker mentioned 3 examples: the debate, the job one, and also the fact that friendships and relationships can end, and they are ending up on a whim without having any consideration to the fact that actions will have consequences, and this is not considering the future that may occur as a result of living in the present, as a result of only thinking about what you should be feeling, instead of having an actually thorough plan of what you should be doing in the future, understanding that it's a small method of escapism that only helps you feel better in the moment, that only helps you make you feel like you're in control of the situation, even though it's a temporary solution to problems that is inevitably still there most of the time. And not only that, we also need to bear the fact that living in the present essentially means that people are most often directionless, in the sense that the past and the future also needs to be combined with them to be able to understand the implications of certain actions, and also how we can see balance in the activities, in the plans, in the things that we are going to do. Therefore, it's really important for us to comprehend all of the things that we need to be putting in mind, all of the things that we need to consider, not just we think on this irrational decision of living in the present that will not essentially guarantee us whether it's going to be good or bad, because it's still a gamble of what happens, because we are not thinking too much into the consequences of things, or into how our past experiences have led us to that very moment. Not only that, I would like to also further improve some of my first and second speaker points regarding how we are also learning as a result of looking at the past and the future. We understand that we are not repeating the same mistakes if we are looking into the past, and then we also understand certain things, certain implications that will happen in the future, and it guides us and it gives us a better understanding of how this world actually works realistically. Not only that, another thing I want to add on to the topic is the first speaker also mentioned thinking about the future. What is it related with when you mentioned that we are going to, you want to go to Japan? you are gonna plan and you're gonna learn Japanese and all that. But isn't that an example of thinking into the future, ladies and gentlemen? That means that it is actually equally important for us to understand the implications of our actions, not only just thinking about the past, not only just thinking about the present, not only thinking about the future, but we need to essentially combine all of them and make them understand the fact that it is an important thing that we need to combine all into one single thought, that we cannot just separately think solely on the present just because it makes us feel good, because that's inherently not true. We need to have a lot of backup plans. We just can't stick to looking into one direction and hoping that everything works out in the end, because in conclusion, we need to understand that life requires balance, and balance requires all things to work synonymously. Thank you very much for listening to my speech.
Okay, thank you for the speech from the government whip. And to close the substance case from the oppositions, I welcome the opposition's whip.
Am I audible? My POI preference is just raise your hand. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, have we ever been told to just like going over to in your decision making? So we won't regret anything in life, and let's take a time to think why people told us to do this. That's because they don't want you to regret of not taking any decision in the future, and that's why the opposition team would like to say that we are prefer to live in the moment rather than thinking too much in the future. Before I start my speech, I would like to rebut some of the government team, what I have to say. The government team think too much about living in the future as an escapism for the mental health of the society. But however, can we make sure that too much, how if the society is too much thinking about the future and therefore creating the mindset of too much escaping, and they think that it's better to just think about the future and not think about what they're gonna do in the future and what they think in the present. And also, the government team also said about the anxiety that anxiety can push someone forward. However, they don't tell us what will happen when people think too much about the future and have too much anxiety, and later on can get depressed and get too burdened about that. And because yes, some people will be fine by having anxiety as their encouragement. However, can we make sure that everyone will feel fine by having anxiety? Will that make sure that we won't get stressed in life? However, by thinking living in the present, it will make us better, because we won't have to stress about this thing, and we won't dwell in mistakes or what we've done in the present or what will happen in the future. And also, I would like to correct some of the government team have said before about regarding the first speaker of the opposition team when regarding the Japanese language, because the first speaker of the opposition team said that when someone wants to learn Japanese, they can use it in the future because they choose to learn it in the present, and which later on can affect the skills in the present futures, not about thinking that the Japanese will be used in the future. So they think about to learn it at the moment, but the skill itself the skill that they learn in the moment will bring in the future. Therefore, will bring in the future. And the speaker of the opposition team would like to say that the both team agree that the society likes to give overwhelming feelings to people. However, the government team think that living in the future as a escapism and think is as the solution in life. However, the opposition team think that living in the future give more overwhelming feeling, because it will make people feel more burdened and therefore give more anxiety to people. Why is it that? Because by thinking too much about the future, it can make you stressed and won't be able to achieve the future you brings. Because why? Because sometimes you can feel more fears and bring your fear to what can happen. For example, for this is what happened in our status quo between the parents and the Gen Z. You can hear a lot of time that parents back in the days they choose what they want to do, and they are so limited to what can they do. So they try to adapt to things that can they do. While the Gen Z nowadays tends to think that about the futures, about having, I'm gonna have so much money in this age, I'm gonna have this in this age, and I want to do this in the future like this, and therefore creating and never making too much burden to themselves because they want because they put the expectation to themselves, and when they couldn't achieve it, like what the opposite thing before has said, it will make them stressed when they couldn't achieve it. And regarding impact on the future, the government team said that short-term decision making is bad because it will harm the future. However, the opposition team think that this will make us as a better person because we will be flexible. And what does it mean by flexible is because you choose to do everything you want now, therefore you will gain a lot of skills, and when you not achieve your goal, you will be more flexible to accept, and this can also help the mental health again to escape depression in the future. And why is opposition this better? Because the world is changing again, and it's changing rapidly, especially nowadays. And therefore, you have to be able to adapt, so you not break in the middle of your life. Because sometimes too much expectation and too much thinking about the future is not good because you are only setting your goals to one goal while thinking while being able to adapt and being flexible towards more options will help you reduce the chance of having burden and fears. Also, regarding the planning of the future, the government team believe that planning and being cautious in the moment to have a better future is a better way for society. But the opposition team believe that do as much as we want nowadays will be better for the future because it will make us more flexible for the future. Because again, we will having more skills and we will be able to meet more people because we act at the moment, and when we meet someone, we're gonna try to build a relationship with other people. But if you think about the future, sometimes we'll just ignore people around you and miss some opportunity and miss to be able to know someone who will be useful in the future too. So not and also. Like imagine, so therefore the opposition team would like to say that we should live in the we would like to say that live in the future will be more harm than good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you from the opposition web. And to close the case of the opposition, I welcome the opposition reply.
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. And also, ladies and gentlemen, my honorable teammates and my honorable opponents, thank you so much for the debate today. I find the debate very interesting because we are talking about things that maybe we are very much having stress about right now, as maybe we tend to think too much about the now, or maybe we tend to think too much the future, as in the status quo right now as students of University of Indonesia. In this debate, very much why I'm going to explain to you the opposition side of the house cases and probably proven to you how living in the now will make sure you will have a much more enjoyable life, much more enjoyable future, and much more enjoyable living condition in the now right now. Firstly, I'm going to explain to you the clashes between the short-term thinking decision that the government side of the house, that the opposition side of the house versus the long-term decision making of the government side of the house. Firstly, we already explained to you how flexibility is better in terms of the current status quo right now, because we explained to you flexibility will actually make you adapt more to the current situation in our world. As we've already stated to you in the characterization of the ever-changing world in our current society right now, we believe that being flexible and being adaptable is actually very much more beneficial and more urgent skills to have, rather than being very much set in stones about your future or about your past mistake. Very much so. And regarding clarification regarding we as the opposition side of the house thinking that we are not going to be a responsible person under our side of the house, we believe that it wouldn't happen, because we also already characterized that we are not that type of person under our side of the house. We also are going to have people who have skills, people who have career, and people who have jobs, ladies and gentlemen. And secondly, regarding mental health issue, which just brings up quite a lot of impacts in our life, and also impacts to the people who was affected by these narratives. Under our side of the house, we already explained to you how thinking about your past mistake, thinking about your future, or achieving the balance that the government side of the house proposes is going to be very much burdening your life more, because you will end up thinking about it more. And we've already explained to you how actually under our side of the house, those type of stress and burden is going to be minimized, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe that also regarding mental health and regarding the impacts to the people, we also won that clash, in the sense that we have the impacts to the society, in the sense we've already explained to you under our second speaker that the impacts on the society itself is going to be impacted through the corporation, in which corporation will have a lot of more flexible employees. Impacts to the individual itself, because we will have much more opportunities to enjoy our life, to enjoy meeting more people, meeting a lot of more individuals who can also help us in the long terms. And for the impacts for other people, such as your family, your closest one, and your friends, in terms of we having that moment that we cherish forever in our mind. And we believe that under these three clashes, we've already won the debate. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the opposition reply. And to close today's debate, I welcome the reply from the government unit.
Yes. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you everyone who's spent their time to come. Thank you, honorable judge, and our friends in the opposition and the government. First, I'm going to bring about my clash speech. What I'm trying to say is, the opposition team were unable to elaborate and give on a logical flow of how the government's proposition will lead to worse outcome. We the government team has again and again said that, says and argues and elaborated upon how our proposition will give about a better life for the society, even though the opposition team has ignored some of our arguments. And the government team has adequately justified why we believe that living in the moment is a narrative that will worsen our lives if it were to be implemented. So we detected a few clashes. The first one is about decision making, whether it's good or not to have a longer type of thinking, to think in the future, whether it's good or bad. So the opposition team has mischaracterized our notion to something that is inflexible, something that is immovable, something that is unprepared if we were to go along with it. But the thing is, what we're trying to say is that reflective doesn't equal inflexible. What we're trying to say is to have a balance of all of them, and to have a reflective lifestyle, to avoid our own mistakes in the past, and to avoid future mistakes in the future. And to live in the present, but not only in the present, as the opposition has argued. The second is about mental health. So I think there's some misconception that the opposition team has about the mental health. What we're trying to argue is that having an unbalanced life, aka having to think about the present all the time, is not something that is good for your mental health. Because having a balanced one, having future, past, and present exist in one single place and all in your mind is something that you need to go towards and something that you need to purposely think about. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, we argue that having a balanced life will lead you into a better mental health. That's what our team was trying to say this entire time. To have a good mental health is to have a balance of all of this, and to have a balance about what we should do in the future. About the balance of what we should not do that we did in the past, ladies and gentlemen. Right? The proposition that the opposition team has brought about will lead into a worse outcome than what we have argued towards. We have argued several times about how their proposition is short-sighted and in the myopic lens on the present, living only in the present and in the present only. It's not something that you want to strive for, and it again doesn't improve your mental health standing, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I think one of the key points in the debate, although it came a bit late, is about mental health. I think this is what this debate is all about, and I think even though living in the present can give you some momentary bliss, without thinking about the future, without thinking of the past, it will be an incomplete picture, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we proudly propose. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the government reply, and that's the end of the debate. And please give me 10 to 15 minutes to sort my notes and to make my decisions. I think in the meantime, you guys can either wait outside or Okay. So yeah, good luck everyone.
This is real fun.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the very interesting debate, and also once again, congratulations for you guys to be in finals. And whatever the decision is, just so you guys know you guys did your best, and basically try your best, and that's the most important part. And I think we can just go with the next one. So first, I'd like to announce the best speaker for the finals, and the best speaker will be the government whip, Farrell Jora. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. So congratulations, Farrell, and obviously all the other speakers already had a very good speech. So next slide, the slide. Next, I will announce the winner for the OIM FIB English debate, and it will be the government team, me. So congratulations for the government team and Kamis for the opposition team. Since there will be no OA, if you guys want to ask any clarifications or want to ask any personal feedbacks, you guys can approach me directly or through my WhatsApp number, and you guys can ask the committee for that. So once again, congratulations and comments, and I think I'll see you guys at OE. So yeah, good luck everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you.